Hello and welcome along to this week's UFC Fight Night picks and predictions breakdown, where we'll be breaking down the weekend's UFC Fight Night Sandhagen versus Figueiredo main card in its entirety, giving our picks and predictions. I'm Jordan from Smash MMA. I'm joined by Silk Pyjamas co-founder and co-creator, Mr. JPL Hooper. What's happening, JP? How you doing?
All good, my man. Well, actually, it's a bit warm here in London, but yeah, I'm not complaining. The minute it starts getting warm here, everybody starts complaining. I'm not one of those guys. I'm happy it's here. And I also walked into a branch this morning. I don't know if you can see the mark. I was walking the dog, looking at my phone like a knob, and smashed my head on a branch.
This is what
So
happens when the sun
this is
comes
my
out.
this
It
is
just
this is
completely ruins us.
Mate, it started bleeding as well, so I don't know what the other dog walkers thought. It looks like I've been around with like Kamaru Usman or something. Real scuffed up. But yeah, all good, mate. Excited.
Oh, very good, very good. So, kicking things off on this card then, and we've got one of your countrymen in the opener, Mason Jones, returning to the UFC after a brilliant four-fight win streak in Cage Warriors, and he's facing an absolute legend of the game, Mister Who the fuck is that guy, Jeremy Stevens. What a fight! Not what anyone expected, I think. What are your thoughts on this one?
Who the fuck is that guy? Mate, I'm excited. It's a great opportunity for Mason Jones. I think he's gonna batter him, you know. I think he's just got this chin, so even Jeremy Stevens like best shot, I don't think it'll hurt Mason. I can see like a round two finish or something. I was just looking back through I think he had three fights in the PFL. He lost two of them before going into BKFC. And I think he's won all three fights in BKFC against like Eddie Alvarez as well. So good opposition. Now he's stepping back into the UFC. I don't know where from. Um, but Mason the Dragon Jones is gonna beat him up, I think. It's a it's funny, he's called the Dragon. Everything in Wales or everything in Cardiff is called the Dragon. You got Dragon FM, which is the local radio. You got Dragon Centre, which is where like they show like it's a cinema, you know, as well as like eateries and stuff. And you've got Dragon Bet, you've got Dragon Taxi, everything is a dragon. So they'll all be supporting Mason this weekend for sure.
So interestingly, I caught up with Mason Jones a couple of months back. So it was a bit of a nightmare story as an early days content creator that I'd was backstage at a Cage Warriors show. I've only previously interviewed, regional guys, and then Mason Jones walks in the door. So obviously, I'm thinking this is my first chance to speak to an actual UFC fighter and a guy with a lot of experience like Mason Jones. Recorded a cracking little 2 or 3 minute interview with him, and then when I played it back after, we learned that my mic had broke and that all I had was 3 minutes of me stood talking to Mason with no sound whatsoever. But one thing that I can say from that conversation, he was absolutely buzzing to be facing Jeremy Stevens, and you can't blame him. And what a guy to come back and fight! I know you've said there about his recent history. So he's had one win in his last six MMA fights, a couple of those at Bellator, which is a really bad run. But then he's moved into bare knuckle, and a little bit like Mike Perry did when he made his move, he just seems to have took to it like a duck to water.
Yeah.
His last fight, he's won the belt against Eddie Alvarez, an absolute legend of the game. So I'm not sure what you can really take from these two stories that are very contrasting. I think bare knuckles a lot different to MMA.
Yeah, of course.
It's a different game, a different sport, a lot less to worry about. It probably suited Jeremy Stevens' style, but I completely agree with you. I think Mason's is much younger fighter. He's just turning 30, and I think Stevens is 38. He's got his grappling game, his wrestling, his jiu-jitsu are really, really good. And I think, like you say, he's got a really good chin on him as well. If Stevens can land some shots, I think Mason's going to walk through them, especially like we've just touched upon that sort of age difference. And I agree with you completely on this one. I'm completely with you. I think Mason's going to get it done, and I think it's not going to last too long. And if Stevens does land a shot, then Mason Jones has got that safety net of relying on his grappling advantage to either give himself a breather or just control the fight. So I think I completely agree with you on this one.
Yeah, he's a big guy as well for lightweight, and I think he was a bit unfortunate in his first UFC stint. I remember watching his debut. I think it was against Mike Davis, and I it was a close fight, but it was in the Apex. It was, a lot of people, a lot of Americans cheering for Mike Davis. It might have affected the judges' decisions. But I thought he fought really well. And then he had one win and a loss to Ludovic Klein, who's not top level, but he is, he's good. He's good. And yeah, and unfortunately they cut him, but he went back to Cage Warriors, won 4 in a row. Like, what more can you do? So this is a good way, especially as a Welshman, to start off the card. I'm excited for this one, and I'm confident he's going to get the win. Mind you, I wouldn't be betting him at one point. What was he like? I think he's like 5s on or something. It's a bit too short for my money. But yeah, good luck to Mason.
It's going to be, I think, like you say, from a betting perspective, it's not great value there, but it's going to be a really fun fight. I'm really looking forward to this one. This is probably the fight on this card, I think, other than the main event, that I'm looking forward to watching the most.
Yeah, definitely. Just don't lose, please, please. It's going to be one of those where you're kind of not enjoying the fight, but fingers crossed he can get it done. And what an opportunity for him to fight Jeremy, But saying that, at BKFC, I wonder how those negotiation talks went with Conor McGregor when Jeremy Stevens was signing for BKFC. That must have been fun. Yeah. Mason Jones, let's do it.
How it's happened is odd, because I mean I saw a little snippet of someone talking about the way that it had panned out, and apparently Stevens had finished his contract with BKFC and just randomly got in touch with the UFC about it, and they were like, "Yeah, come in and we'll get you back in for a couple."
Well, he's done well there, so they must be delighted. There was talk of Conor fighting him at one point. I think that might be even been in the UFC before he left. Yeah, but I'd like to see that fight in BKFC one day.
100%. I think that'd be a cracking fight.
Conor against anyone in BKFC would be fun.
Yeah, and it'd probably be. I mean, it would be a very, very good fight. Let's call it that.
It would never happen, but it would be fun.
So moving on now into the next fight on this card, and we've got Cameron Smotherman, who is he basically. He put an end to Jake Hadley's UFC career in their last fight. He's facing off against Sergey Saidi. So the slight favourite in this one. What do you reckon to this fight? What are your thoughts?
I think Saidi is, or Side, or however you say his name. He's Canadian, right? I think he's good for a round. So if Smotherman can get through round 1, and avoid, like, he kind of reminds me of a shit Corey Sandhagen Saidi. He's rangy.
You know what? Yeah.
He throws knees at the middle, but it seems like he doesn't want a war with people. And he looks pretty good for the first round, and then kind of bottles it. And I think Smotherman looked good. I think that fight was on. It might have been a catchweight, right? Because it was short notice.
Yep.
I think somebody pulled out. He was like a massive underdog as well. I think he was like 4-5 to 1 as well against Hadley. And Hadley just looked like a rabbit in the headlights, yeah. And I think, well, I know Hadley had a point deduction as well for low blows, or eye poke, or maybe one of each, and he got a point deducted. And then he was just on the chase, couldn't knock him out, and Smotherman won that fight. But he did look good. He looked game, And I think if he can get through round 1, then I think he turns the fight around and wins in the last 2, takes the next 2 rounds. So Smotherman for me. I think he's a good bet.
I've gone the same way as well with my choice in this fight.
Yeah.
The Smotherman Hadley fight was interesting because Hadley's a little bit of a local boy to me. I mean, he's Birmingham, Halesowen sort of
Yeah.
area, which is not very far away from where I am. So naturally, I'm going to be rooting for him. And in that fight, it was a big. It was an opportunity I felt for Hadley to make a statement. He didn't make that statement. Obviously, got cut. But Smotherman gained himself a real opportunity here, and I think
Mm.
if you can get past Saudi, you know what I mean? It could go somewhere. And something that really excites me about this one is it's two names that aren't, in my opinion, anywhere near as big as our opener. But you've got two strikers. You know, they've had some good wins. Like we've just spoke about the Hadley win for Smotherman. Saidi got a decent win in a close fight against Garrett Armfield. So this could be a decent little scrap. This could.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so. It'd be good. By the way, like Jake Hadley is the most quintessential looking Englishman out there, isn't it? Does he not remind you of Wayne Rooney? You know, like
Like a
he's got that
tiny
look
version.
about it. Yeah, yeah, small version, but he looks like a fighter like Wayne Rooney. I think it was unfortunate to cut him as well, especially if it was a catch weight. You know, it was a bit of a crappy move by the UFC, but.
It was
He
very harsh, but
is he a PFL now?
well, that's the thing I was about to say is that UFC cut was really harsh on Jake, but he's gone to PFL. He's in their $500,000 tournament this
Could work
year.
out.
So it could, from a financial perspective,
Yeah.
work out really well for Jake. And if you can go away and put some and make an impact in that, then who knows? That win for Cameron Smotherman could end up looking really, really good.
Did he also beat Cowlin Loughran, Jake Hadley?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I think he was underdog. Did he come up a weight for that
Yeah,
fight?
yeah, he came up to bantamweight
Yeah,
for
so
it.
that's a bit
Which
it's a bit of a dick move by the UFC to cut him after two, you know, kind of fights which are not in his weight class. One he won, one he lost, and they cut him. Oh.
one of them as well. I can't remember which fight it was, but his girlfriend or his wife. I can't remember if she'd just given birth or she was just about to. But
Yeah.
he dropped. He came at the drop of a hat, and it was a bit harsh because that was him trying to show himself as a company man, and
Yeah.
then 2 fights later, done.
They're ruthless. They really are. I mean, like, I had a bad day at work today, and you just think to yourself, if you were Jake Hadley getting cut, you know what that next week or two is going to be like. You know, planning your future. It's tough, man. For most athletes, I think it's a tough life, but good luck to him anyway.
Yeah, cutthroat sport. So next fight down on this card, and we've got Montel Jackson facing Daniel Marcos. And this fight, from a betting perspective especially, really intrigued me because Jackson's 14-2. He's on a good run. He's on a 5-fight win streak, and he is quite close to the rankings. But he's the favourite against Daniel Marcos, who's 17-0 as a pro, 23 wins in a row as a pro and amateur. He's never tasted defeat, and he's a very good striker too. I can see a lot of value in Daniel Marcos here.
I didn't realize he's on a 23. I seen he was 17-0, but I didn't realize he's had another, what's that? 23, did you say? 23-0.
6 amateur fights that he won every one as well.
Yeah, he's he's got that red hair, isn't he? Seems like a bit of a nutter. But Montel Jackson, he can knock anyone out. The only thing about like Jackson is he's a little bit inactive. I see he had a few cancelled fights. Two, like I think he had 3 in a row, 2 which weren't his fault. So I don't think he's injured or anything like that. Maybe he's picking and choosing when he wants to fight, which is good, I suppose. And like he just, I think when other fighters fight him, they're always a little bit wary of that power. So they're not the most busiest of fights. Whereas you look at Marcos's fights, and they are busy, you know. He's like constant pressure, leg kicks. He's a little bit wild. He did get rocked in his last fight with Yanez, which if Jackson catches him with that punch, you know, like with his left hand, he's probably not going to get back up from it. So yeah, it's a super interesting fight. I really don't know which way it's going to go. So it's a no bet for me, just because Marcus is probably going to be the busier fighter, and if it gets to a decision, he might get his arm raised, but he's going in against someone that can KO him, just with one punch. We've seen that against Damon Blackshear in the first 10, 15 seconds or something. It was lights out for him. Yeah. And Blackshear is no joke, So yeah, I actually, this is like a sleeper fight. One that I'm excited to watch, but I don't want to predict it. So if you put a gun to my head, I'll say Jackson KO.
Like you say, it's going one of two ways. It's either going to be, I think, a Jackson KO or Marcos is going to be. It's going to be point scoring pressure. We're only going to go one of either way in that one.
So let's just see. Yeah, Montel Jackson's odds is 1.5 and Daniel Marcos 2.7. Okay, so yeah, he's a heavy favorite, but yeah, that's why I didn't want to bet on here. There's nothing that really kind of catches my eye. If it was closer to evens, maybe 1.8 Jackson, I would take that on.
Cool. So next fight on the card, and we've got two guys who are both, I suppose you could say, towards the end of their career. One especially. We've got Santiago Ponzinibbio taking on Daniel Rodriguez, and this one, I mean, we spoke just about fights being sleeper fights. This fight, to me, at the moment, looks like it might be a put you to sleep fight, and I'm a little bit concerned about that one. I don't know if it's been slotted in the middle intentionally. Maybe this is there to give us an opportunity to make a cup of coffee.
Do you think so? I think this is going to be fun.
I'm not so sure.
Ponzinibbio is a bit of a fun fighter. I think he's he can get hit, and he throws a lot of shots as well. It is fun, but I mean, they're not very big names. I do like D-Rod. Yeah, it's a close one to call, but sorry, I didn't mean to bet in there. I'm excited for this fight.
This is what I love about these sort of conversations, is that you can have two completely different contrasting views on exactly the same fight. So I look at this and I think Ponzinibbio sort of towards the end he took a lot of shots. For me, I'm expecting both of these guys to probably rely on their grappling a little bit in this one.
I don't think Ponzinibbio is a grappler, is he? I think Rodriguez can kind of stink up a fight against the cage, doesn't really get many takedowns. I know he got knocked out by Ian Gary, of all people, your boy. But yeah, Santiago Ponzinibbio, he's got this amazing way of recovering. He can get knocked down, he gets back up, takes 2 or 3 steps, and he's right back in it. It must be so frustrating to watch him after you've hit him with a good shot and he gets back up. So yeah, this is a completely even fight as well. I think Ponzinibbio is 1.8 favorite and Rodriguez is evens with the bookmaker. I'm swaying towards D-Rod, I think. For some reason, I'm not going to bet on this fight, but I think I'm swaying towards D-Rod. He's got that ability to grapple up against the fence, hit him with some elbows, maybe take Ponzinibbio down. And I think it's going to be a close fight, maybe a split decision, but I'm going to say D-Rod gets a decision.
I think I agree with you on this one. Although, I mean, I've touched just upon my concerns about how good a fight this could be, and that is because I am fully expecting D-Rod to be using that sort of hold up against the fence approach. I think he's going to be trying to smother Ponzinibbio. I think that's where this one could go. And I think you could be right. I think it could be a Rodriguez win. I think probably by more control than anything else is where my money is. But I really hope that I'm wrong. I hope this is an absolute barn burner and they beat 7 bells out of each other. But I'm not so sure at this point in time.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a weird fight. But he's a bit of a wild dude. Ponzinibbio, he is from Argentina. They seem to be a wild people in generally speaking. So we'll see.
Yeah, definitely. And then we get to what I think might not be the best fight on this card, but I certainly think it's the most intriguing fight of this card for me personally, and that's Rainier Derrida facing Bo Nickel. So you've got Rainier de Ridder. He's 19-2. He's an absolute submission wizard. 14 subs in 19 wins is crazy. He's facing off against a Bo Nickel that just looks at times unstoppable. 7-0. He's wrestling. It can't be doubted. He's an absolute top tier wrestler. Every fight he seems to be getting a lot better. His fight IQ, I think, is something that's been improving, and I think that really showed in Nickel's last fight against Paul Craig. Which, interestingly, I think this fight's a little bit similar to that one in the sense that Craig and de Ridder aren't a million miles apart. I think. And the way that Nickel avoided those grappling exchanges and kept the fight on the feet, that he needs to, for me, copy that playbook in this fight, because if it turns into a situation where Nickel's on top of RDR or vice versa, it could be in some real danger. So how this plays out, it's almost like, for me, I don't know if I'd call RDR a better version of Paul Craig, although you could definitely argue that he is, but he's more in his prime. He's a younger guy. He's obviously been on a much more consistent run recently. He's on a 3-fight win streak.
Is de Ridder younger than Bo Nickel?
He's not younger than Paul Craig.
Well, yeah, sorry.
Not younger than Bo Nickel.
Yeah, it's definitely Bo Nickel's toughest test, and I was going to say the same as you. He's in a bit of a weird place. I'm not saying he's under pressure or anything like that. He's not going to get cut, obviously, because the UFC seem to love him. But he did stink up that match against Paul Craig, But it was a smart way to win, but just boring, man. And like, I think the crowd let him know. Let him knew he was putting them to sleep, He came out in the press conference afterwards and saying they were cheering my name, boo, which I thought was like a great one-liner, to be fair to him. But I'm not sure. It could go another way. He might step up and perform. The only thing about de Ridder, like you say, he's a better striker than Paul Craig. And he does have a lot of submissions. He has a good submission ground, a good submission game. Sorry, can't bloody speak. So I'm not sure if Bo Nickel was avoiding the submission threat from Paul Craig, will he do the same against RDR, or will he do what he should have done to Paul Craig and just ignore it, take him down, and try and beat him up on the ground? That's what everyone was expecting him to see. Now he's put himself under a little bit of pressure with the fans. If he goes through another fight stinking it up, he's gonna lose momentum, and I don't think the UFC will appreciate it. So he's in a bit of a tricky position, but I do think that he's gonna come out and it's gonna be he's gonna surprise some people. He's a 1.33 favorite, so 3's on exactly, and RDR is, what price is he? 3.4. So you got good value if you wanted to bet RDR, but I just think this is the fight which we see the improvements from Bo Nickel, because he's not doing nothing in the gym. He's got that wrestling advantage, and I think he's going to put it on RDR with the striking. And I'm not sure if you watched RDR in the PFL. Against let me just check his Anatoly Malakin. Mate, that is a fun fight to watch. 2 fun fights, and that guy Anatoly is just a roided up juice head. And he hit the RDR with some like really big shots, like really big. It looked like he was gonna take his head off. He just kept hitting him over, and RDR was just taking them, to be fair. So if he can take a few punches off Anatoly, I think he'll be able to take a punch off Bo Nickel as well. So it should be an interesting fight.
I think what makes this particularly interesting for me is, and like the Paul Craig fight, I think the problem with that fight is that you'd had the Paul Craig Magomed Ankalaev fight and Jamar Hill, where both guys have basically beat the shit out of Paul Craig, and then he's caught. I mean, that last second submission on Big Ank, and I think that's the sort of thing that's made Bo Nickel almost scared to step in. But this fight will be interesting because I think depending on where Bo Nickal's ego takes him, because like you say, he took a lot of stick from the crowd and pretty much everybody by the way that he stunk up that Paul Craig fight by basically jabbing and staying as far away from him as possible. And if he goes into that fight with the same attitude against Derrida, he's probably going to get the same result. But the way the crowd reacted to him, he might have joked about it at the press conference, and like you say, it's a good little way to come back at it. But I think that, especially at his stage in his career, that's going to have affected him. And if he comes into this fight swinging and trying to prove a point against RDR, that's where it could get dangerous for him.
Yeah, but that's what makes it exciting, right?
Exactly.
I think he's going to have to do it unless if he wants to try and win some fans over. Yeah, against Paul Craig, the way to win is quite clear. Just don't go on the ground, and you probably survive. So it was a smart way of winning a fight, but a boring way. So yeah, but this one, I think he's going to get it done. But again, it's not a bad little co-main event here.
It's a really good co-main event and
Yeah.
a really interesting fight, and it leads us perfectly into what I think is a brilliant fight. Corey Sandhagen, Davison Figueiredo, main event. And so on my Instagram page, I put a little bet out the other day, and it was a double that I'm not saying this is going to win by any stretch. I just looked at it as really good value. And the first one obviously was for RDR to get a submission against Bo Nickal. But the second fight that I looked at on this card was for Davison Figueiredo to do the same to Sandhagen. But either way you look at it, the odds on Figueiredo, has everyone forgotten that this guy is a former flyweight champion, probably one of the best flyweights we've seen? Because was it plus 400 it was at? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, it's mental. It's mental. I think Sandhagen's gonna smash him up, but those odds, you like, I thought exactly the same as you. Just like, hang on, have they got this wrong? It can't be this bad. But yeah, you just it makes you think twice about it, and I kind of want to bet Figueiredo now just because the odds are so tempting. One thing is going to be a super fun fight. They both kind of fought like Peter Yan. They've had like similar opponents as well. I think Carlos Vera as well. Both were kind of like the same outcomes with Peter Yan, and the same outcomes against Vera as well, right? They both beaten Carlos
beat
Vera. Yeah,
both lost to Yan.
Yeah, so on paper, it should be a closer fight than what the odds are suggesting, but he's a bad dude like Sandhagen, and I think that range, and he just goes out there. He looks so good for the first 2 rounds. That's why I was so excited to see him against Nurmagomedov. But for the first 2 rounds, he just like beats people up and then just coasts to like just thinks I'm gonna win at least one more round in the next 3. So I'm just happy, just kind of keeping it at distance, flying in with knees and stuff like that. And I can really see Sandhagen stopping Figgy, but at these odds, my whole decision making just changed and crumbled, and I'm just like, what if Figgy wins and I haven't bet him, So I've only got 100 points on Silk Pyjamas now because Prates did Prates things and didn't want to fight Ian Gary for some reason. So I've only got 100 points on Silk, so I'm going to use those on Figueiredo, and if he wins by decision, I'm back on 1,000. So that's what I'm going to do.
And I've done exactly the same thing. I've looked on. I think I'd got about 500 points.
Yeah, you're doing all right now. You went Abbas Magomedov. Yeah.
Yep.
That's who I should have went.
and then I've flew it on Figgy, purely because you can't the value. But then it's so hard because I think Corey Sandhagen, well, both of these guys, they're almost in that strange category where they beat the shit out of anyone that isn't super, super good. And even in that fight against Umar, I thought Sandhagen did pretty well.
Yeah.
He defended a lot of takedowns. He did some good defensive work. It was just, I think the persistence of Umar, what really got paid off for him in that fight. But I don't think Sandhagen looked that bad, to be honest.
Well, Umar is seriously good, and you could see that even in his loss against Marab. He was he was hitting him. He looked technically like beautiful takedowns. He's got it all. He was just like Marab is just a bit of a beast. But yeah, like Sandhagen did like extremely well there. I was just really hoping he could pull it off. So, yeah, this fight, I'm not sure. We could see here that everybody is lumping on Figgy as well. So I think anyone with 100 points left is just like get me back in the game. Yeah, yeah, they're throwing a Hail Mary.
Definitely.
Yeah, so it's a super interesting fight, man. But I love Sandhagen. He just seems like such a cool bloke.
He does, doesn't he? He's got that strange combination that you see in a lot of UFC fighters where they seem like really lovely guys. I mean, I don't know if you saw the little clip of him going through Chat GPT comebacks at the press conference.
I've seen it recommended to me, but I haven't watched it yet. Is it good?
Oh, it's brilliant because he's so deadpan. He's just like, oh, I can't come up with things to say to people, so I asked Chat GPT, and then he's just like reading through them, but just like it's comedy gold. Really nice guy.
Yeah, he's super safe. So, are we going to do the charity bet this week?
Of course we are.
All right, nice. Let's try and win some money.
I went first last week. It's over to you this week.
Oh, okay. Jeez, pressure's on. Let me think. Well, I should pick Mason Jones, but his odds are a bit pathetic. Let me think. Okay, I'm gonna go with Cameron Smotherman.
Cameron Smotherman.
Yeah, he's a bit of an outsider. And I feel bad picking Abus Megamedov last week because you wanted to pick him, I think. So you went with Giga Chikadze, right?
Giga Chikadze.
Yeah, and I think he was quite unlucky there. It was a close fight.
It was a close fight.
Yeah, and Onama just managed to get control for the last 2 rounds and, beat him up for 10 seconds, and that kind of like guarantees you around these days. But that Mason Jones fought David Onama, right? Yeah.
He did, didn't he?
Yeah, I think that's his win in the UFC, which is quite interesting. We see how much he's improved in Cage Warriors, and maybe they can book a rematch.
Ooh, that would be very interesting.
Yeah. Well, it's 1 week after each other, so the timing kind of makes sense. And both lightweights, and they fought before. And he's got a big name like Jeremy Stevens, and they'll both be coming off wins. Maybe they could make it.
That could be a really good fight.
That'd be interesting, wouldn't it? There we go, matchmaker here.
I know, yeah.
Who are you gonna pick?
So I'm torn between trying to get some money in by going for an outsider in someone like Figueiredo, or trying to actually win some money and not just be speculative and go for a similar outsider in Daniel Marcos. And I think that's where I'm going to go. I'm going to try and have a little bit more of a chance of us getting some money in the pot, and I'm going to go Marcos. Okay,
sounds good. I don't mind it at all. I think if he can avoid it, like just tap around, maybe get a takedown, like just avoid that left hand wherever you do in the first 10 seconds, and not be a rabbit in the headlights. Just keep fighting. And I think he's a crazy dude, so he's going to come to fight. Let's just pray he doesn't get hit.
I'd imagine, to be honest, his coach has probably been repeating avoid the left hand all day, every day for the last couple of months while he's been preparing for this.
Yeah, he'd be hearing it in his sleep. And then wake up in the middle of the octagon just like...
Right, then, we will get that one locked and loaded then. So we've got Daniel Marcos and Cameron Smotherman, double. We'll drop it up on the channel as well, get the odds going, and we'll see where we are. JPL, absolute pleasure again. Really enjoyed going through this one. And I'm sure we will be back next week.
Yeah, mate, let's do it. Oh, I'm on holiday next week, actually, so I might be by the beach doing it.
Oh, even better. Right, classmate, very, very good. And I'll catch you on the next one.
Thanks, George.